The sun was setting over the vast expanse of the Nevada desert, painting the sky in shades of orange and red. The dry air carried a faint chill as dusk approached, and the silence of the barren landscape was broken only by the hum of distant machinery. In the middle of this emptiness stood a cluster of tents, vehicles, and equipment, hastily assembled to form a command center. Soldiers moved with purpose, their boots kicking up small clouds of dust, while scientists adjusted monitors and checked readings on various devices. Everyone there knew they were about to witness something extraordinary. Among the crowd was Daniel Carter, a man in his early 40s with short brown hair and glasses perched on his nose. He wasn't dressed in military uniform like many others, but wore a simple button-down shirt rolled up at the sleeves. His calm demeanor made him stand out amidst the tension that filled the air. Daniel had spent years studying the stars, searching for signs of life beyond Earth. Now it seemed his lifelong dream or nightmare had finally come true. Standing beside him was Laura Bennett, a woman in her mid-30s with sharp green eyes and an athletic build. Unlike Daniel, she wore a camouflage uniform adorned with badges earned through years of service. Her presence commanded respect, not because of her rank but because of the quiet confidence she radiated. She had seen combat before, faced situations where every decision could mean life or death, and yet nothing had prepared her for what was happening now. Above them, the sky darkened further, and a low rumble began to echo across the desert. At first it sounded like thunder, but no storm clouds marred the horizon. Then came a soft glow, growing brighter and brighter until it became almost blinding. A massive object descended from the heavens, its sleek metallic surface gleaming under the fading sunlight. It hovered silently above the ground, defying gravity with ease, and cast long shadows over the makeshift base below. Whispers spread among the gathered personnel. Some stared in awe, others in fear. No one spoke loudly. The sheer size and otherworldly appearance of the craft demanded reverence. After several tense moments, the ship lowered itself gently onto the sand, sending ripples through the earth beneath it. Its surface shimmered as if alive, shifting colors ever so slightly with each passing second. Then, without warning, a section of the hull slid open, revealing 3 towering figures who stepped out into the twilight. These beings were unlike anything anyone had ever imagined. They stood nearly 8 feet tall, their limbs elongated and graceful, moving with fluid precision. Their skin was translucent, glowing faintly, giving them an ethereal quality. Each of their faces was smooth, devoid of features save for 2 large almond-shaped eyes that glowed softly. There were no mouths, no ears, no noses, just those mesmerizing eyes that seemed capable of peering straight into your soul. As the aliens emerged, a strange sensation washed over everyone present. It wasn't audible exactly, but more like thoughts being projected directly into their minds. "We are the Valens," the voice said, resonating within their heads. "We have observed your species for some time. You call yourselves humans. We have come to assess your worth." Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. He glanced at Laura, whose jaw was clenched tightly. She looked as though she wanted to say something but held herself back. Instead, she focused intently on the aliens, her hand resting instinctively on the holster at her side. The Valens continued, their tone neither friendly nor hostile, but dripping with condescension. "Your technology is primitive, your methods crude. You rely on combustion and projectiles to wage war, tools unfit for a truly advanced civilization." One of them gestured toward a table nearby, where several firearms and pieces of military hardware had been laid out for display. These items had been carefully chosen to showcase humanity's most cutting-edge weapon systems. When the Valens examined the weapons, their reaction was immediate and mocking. They laughed, a sound that reverberated like static electricity inside everyone's heads. "How quaint," one of them said, picking up a rifle with delicate fingers. "Such rudimentary instruments. Do you truly believe these can protect you?" Laura stiffened visibly, her hands balling into fists at her sides. She hated the way they dismissed everything humanity had achieved, reducing centuries of progress to mere child's play. But she also knew better than to lash out. These creatures were clearly far more advanced than humans, and provoking them would be suicide. Daniel, however, couldn't stay silent. Stepping forward cautiously, he raised his hands in what he hoped was a gesture of peace. "You misunderstand us," he said, his voice steady despite the knot forming in his stomach. "Our strength doesn't lie solely in our weapons. Humanity has accomplished incredible feats, not just in science and engineering, but in art, culture, and cooperation. We may not have your level of technology, but we possess something equally valuable: ingenuity." The Valens paused, tilting their heads slightly as if considering his words. For a moment, it seemed they might listen. But then another burst of laughter erupted in their minds. "Ingenious, perhaps, but ultimately insignificant. Your species is young, fragile, and unworthy of notice." With that, they turned away, their movements effortless and graceful. As they re-entered their ship, the same segment of the hull slid shut behind them. The craft rose silently into the air, leaving the humans standing in stunned silence. Dust swirled around their feet as the wind picked up, carrying with it the lingering feeling of humiliation. Daniel sighed deeply, running a hand through his hair. "They don't understand us," he muttered, shaking his head. "But maybe that's our advantage." Laura nodded slowly, her expression hardening. "If they think we're weak, let them keep thinking it, for now. But next time, we'll make sure they regret underestimating us." Around them, the soldiers and scientists exchanged uneasy glances. The encounter had left them shaken, but also determined. They had faced the unknown and survived. And deep down, they all knew one thing for certain: this wasn't over, not by a long shot. The command center buzzed with activity as the sun dipped below the horizon, plunging the desert into darkness. The only sources of light came from the glowing screens inside the tents and the occasional flicker of flashlights as soldiers moved between vehicles. Everyone was talking at once, scientists arguing over data, military personnel debating strategy, and engineers sketching out ideas on notepads. Despite the chaos, two figures stood apart from the rest, their expressions calm, but resolute. Daniel Carter leaned against a table cluttered with maps and blueprints, his glasses slightly askew. He stared at the ground, deep in thought, while Laura Bennett paced back and forth beside him. Her boots scuffed against the sand, leaving faint tracks that were quickly erased by the wind. Neither spoke for a while, each lost in their own thoughts about what had just happened. Finally, Daniel broke the silence. "We can't let them leave thinking they've won," he said quietly, his voice firm despite the weight of the situation. "If we do nothing, they'll spread the word to whoever they answer to. They'll tell the universe that humanity is weak, that we're not worth noticing." Laura stopped pacing and turned to face him. Her green eyes narrowed as she considered his words. "I agree," she replied. "But how do we fight back? We saw their ship. It's far beyond anything we've ever built. Their weapons are probably just as advanced. If we try to attack directly, we'll lose." Daniel nodded slowly. "You're right, we can't match them head-on, but maybe we don't have to. Humanity has always been good at adapting, at finding ways to win when the odds are stacked against us. What if we use our strengths instead of trying to copy theirs?" Laura tilted her head, intrigued. "What do you mean?" He gestured toward the makeshift lab nearby where a group of engineers was huddled around a laptop. "Think about it. The Valens rely on technology, energy weapons, advanced propulsion systems, all that stuff. It's impressive, sure, but it's also vulnerable. Technology needs power to function. Without it, even the most sophisticated machine becomes useless." A slow smile spread across Laura's face as she caught his meaning. "You're talking about an EMP," she said. "An electromagnetic pulse could disable their systems if we can get close enough." "Exactly," Daniel replied. "But we need to be smart about it. We can't just fire one off randomly. They'd see it coming. We need to make them think it's something else, something harmless." At that moment, General Harold Miller approached them. A tall man with graying hair and a stern expression, he carried himself with the authority of someone who had seen decades of conflict. His uniform was immaculate, though dust clung to his boots like everyone else's. "What are you two discussing?" he asked, his tone sharp but not unkind. Laura glanced at Daniel before answering. "We think we might have a way to level the playing field," she explained. "It's risky, but it could work." General Miller listened intently as Daniel outlined their plan. When they finished, he crossed his arms and frowned. "You're proposing we lure them into a trap," he said. "That's dangerous. If they realize what we're doing, they could retaliate, and trust me, we don't want to see what they're capable of." "We know the risks," Laura said firmly. "But sitting here and doing nothing isn't an option either. If we don't act, they'll keep looking down on us. Worse, they might decide we're not worth keeping around." The general sighed heavily, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "All right," he said after a long pause. "I'll give you a chance to make this work. But I want everyone involved to understand the stakes. This isn't just about pride, it's about survival." With the general's reluctant approval, the team sprang into action. Engineers began modifying EMP devices, disguising them as ordinary objects that wouldn't raise suspicion. Meanwhile, Laura and Daniel worked on crafting a believable story to present to the Valans when they returned. They knew the aliens wouldn't fall for anything too obvious, so every detail had to be carefully planned. As the hours passed, two key members of the operation emerged: Jack Thompson and Rachel Dawson. Jack was a pilot in his late 20s with sandy blonde hair and a cocky grin that masked his nerves. He had spent years flying experimental aircraft and was known for his ability to stay cool under pressure. Rachel, on the other hand, was a programmer in her early 30s with curly brown hair tied back in a loose ponytail. She rarely spoke unless necessary, preferring to focus on her work, but her intelligence was unmatched. Jack and Rachel were tasked with executing the most critical parts of the plan. Jack would pilot a stealth aircraft into position above the alien ship, ready to activate the EMP devices at the right moment. Rachel, meanwhile, would monitor the operation from a secure bunker, ensuring everything went according to plan. Both understood the gravity of their roles and accepted the responsibility without hesitation. While preparations continued, tensions ran high. Some members of the team questioned whether the plan was too ambitious, while others worried about the potential consequences if it failed. Arguments erupted frequently, forcing Laura to step in and mediate. She reminded everyone of the bigger picture. Humanity's survival depended on their success. Finally, after days of nonstop work, everything was ready. The disguised EMP devices were loaded onto a transport vehicle, along with several decoys, designed to look like gifts. Laura rehearsed her lines repeatedly, practicing how to present the items to the Valans without giving away their true purpose. Jack tested his aircraft multiple times, ensuring it could evade detection, while Rachel fine-tuned her algorithms to synchronize the EMPs perfectly. Then, on the third night, the Valans returned. Their ship descended silently from the sky, casting eerie shadows over the desert once again. This time, however, the humans were prepared. As the aliens stepped out of their craft, their glowing eyes scanning the crowd, Laura stepped forward confidently. "We welcome you back," she said, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "In recognition of your visit, we offer these tokens of peace." She gestured to the transport vehicle behind her, where the disguised EMP devices sat alongside genuine gifts such as artwork and books. The Valans examined the items curiously, their expressions unreadable. One of them picked up a small sculpture, carved from marble, examining it closely. Another flipped through the pages of a novel, its glowing eyes flickering as it processed the text. Finally, they reached the EMP devices, which had been cleverly disguised as ornate metal boxes etched with intricate designs. "These are acceptable," one of the Valans announced, its voice echoing in everyone's minds. "You have shown effort, though it remains insignificant." Laura forced herself to smile, hiding her relief. "We hope these gestures demonstrate our desire for cooperation," she said diplomatically. As the Valans carried the items back to their ship, the humans exchanged nervous glances. Now came the hardest part. waiting. Jack climbed into his aircraft and took off silently, circling high above the alien vessel. Rachel monitored the situation from her bunker, her fingers flying over the keyboard as she coordinated with the team. On the ground, minutes ticked by agonizingly slowly. Then finally, the signal came. Rachel activated the EMP devices remotely, sending a surge of electromagnetic energy coursing through the Valen ship. At first, nothing seemed to happen. But then the ship shuddered violently, its lights flickering and dimming. The hum of its engines faltered, and the sleek metallic surface lost its glow. Inside the command center, cheers erupted as the humans realized their plan had worked. For the first time since the Valen's arrival, hope surged through the group. They had proven that humanity wasn't as helpless as the aliens believed, and now the balance of power had shifted. But the battle wasn't over yet. The Valen ship trembled violently, its once smooth movements jerky and uncoordinated. The glow of its metallic surface dimmed, replaced by a dull gray that made it look almost lifeless. Inside the command center, the humans watched in stunned silence as their plan unfolded before their eyes. For a moment no one spoke, then slowly cheers erupted from the gathered personnel. Soldiers clapped each other on the back, scientists hugged in relief, and even General Harold Miller allowed himself a small smile. But Laura Bennett didn't join in the celebration. Her green eyes remained fixed on the alien craft, her expression tense. She knew better than anyone that disabling the ship wasn't the end. It was only the beginning. The Valens were still out there, and they wouldn't take this humiliation lying down. "Stay focused," she said sharply, cutting through the noise. "This isn't over yet." Daniel Carter nodded in agreement. He stood beside her, his glasses reflecting the faint light of the monitors. "You're right," he said quietly. "They'll try to fight back. We need to be ready for whatever happens next." High above the scene, Jack Thompson gripped the controls of his stealth aircraft tightly. His knuckles were white, but his face was calm. He had done his part, activating the EMP devices, but now he had to stay alert. If the Valens managed to regain control of their ship, they might retaliate, and Jack's aircraft was their best chance at gathering intelligence or launching another attack if needed. Meanwhile, Rachel Dawson sat in her bunker, her fingers flying over the keyboard. As she monitored the situation, her curly brown hair was tied back messily, and dark circles under her eyes showed how little sleep she'd gotten during the past few days. But she didn't care about exhaustion. All that mattered was keeping the EMP devices synchronized and ensuring the Valens couldn't recover too quickly. On her screen, lines of code scrolled rapidly, showing the status of the alien ship's systems. So far, everything appeared to be offline, but she knew it was only a matter of time before the aliens found a way to counteract the EMP. Inside the Valen ship, chaos reigned. The towering beings moved frantically, their translucent skin flickering faintly as they tried to restore power to their systems. Their glowing eyes darted around the interior, searching for answers. For the first time since their arrival, fear registered on their otherwise expressionless faces. They had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. One of the Valens approached a console, its long fingers tapping furiously against the smooth surface. Nothing happened. Another attempted to communicate telepathically with its companions, but their connection was weak, disrupted by the electromagnetic pulse. Frustration bubbled beneath their calm exteriors, and their earlier arrogance gave way to panic. Outside, Laura stepped forward cautiously, her hand resting on the holster at her side. She raised her voice so it carried across the desert. "We don't want to harm you," she called out. "We acted in self-defense. If you stand down, we can work together to resolve this peacefully." For a moment, there was no response. Then, a low hum filled the air, growing louder until it became almost unbearable. The Valens emerged from their ship, their movements slower and less graceful than before. Their glowing eyes locked onto Laura, and their telepathic voices echoed inside everyone's minds. "You have crossed a line," one of them said, its tone colder than ever. "Your actions will not go unpunished." Laura swallowed hard but held her ground. "We didn't start this. she replied firmly. You mocked us, dismissed us, and treated us like we were nothing. But we've shown you that humanity is more than you thought. If you choose to fight, we'll defend ourselves. But if you're willing to talk, we're ready to listen. The Valens hesitated, their expressions unreadable. It was clear they were struggling to process what had just happened. Their advanced technology had failed them, leaving them vulnerable in a way they hadn't anticipated. For beings who prided themselves on superiority, this was a devastating blow. General Miller joined Laura, his presence adding weight to her words. We don't want war, he said, addressing the aliens directly. We want understanding. Show us the same respect you expect from us, and we can find a way forward. The Valens exchanged silent glances, their thoughts hidden behind their glowing eyes. Finally, one of them stepped forward, its voice quieter now. Your species is unexpected, it admitted reluctantly. We underestimated you, and for that, we accept responsibility. But know this. Our patience has limits. Laura nodded, sensing an opportunity. Then let's use this moment to build trust, she suggested. Share your knowledge with us and we'll share ours. Together we can achieve things neither of us could do alone. The aliens considered her proposal for what felt like an eternity. Then, finally, they nodded. Very well, one of them said. But beware. If you betray this truce, the consequences will be severe. As the Valens retreated back into their ship, the humans exhaled collectively. The immediate threat had passed, but the tension lingered. Everyone knew this uneasy alliance was fragile, built on mutual distrust and fear. Still, it was a start. Later, that night after the Valens had repaired enough of their systems to stabilize their ship, Daniel approached Laura near the edge of the camp. The desert was quiet now, the wind carrying whispers of sand across the barren landscape. Do you think they'll keep their word? He asked softly. Laura stared at the distant glow of the alien craft, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. I don't know, she admitted. But we've proven we're not powerless. That's something they won't forget. Daniel nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. If we play our cards right, this could be the beginning of something incredible. Imagine what we could learn from them, the advancements we could make. Laura glanced at him, a hint of a smile tugging at her lips. Or it could all fall apart tomorrow. Either way, we've earned their attention, and maybe that's enough for now. Behind them, the command center buzzed with activity as soldiers and scientists worked to document every detail of the encounter. Jack landed his aircraft safely and joined Rachel in the bunker, where they reviewed data and prepared reports for higher-ups. Despite the exhaustion etched on their faces, there was a sense of accomplishment in the air. They had faced the unknown and come out on top, at least for the moment. As the first rays of dawn broke over the horizon, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold, the humans gathered to watch the Valon ship ascend into the heavens. It hovered briefly, as if contemplating its next move, then shot upward, disappearing into the clouds. The sound of its engines faded into silence, leaving the desert eerily still once again. For the first time in days, the group allowed themselves to relax. They had survived the encounter, not just physically but mentally. The Valens had underestimated them, and humanity had turned that mistake into an advantage. It was a victory, not just against the aliens but against doubt and fear. But even as they celebrated, Laura couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The universe was vast, filled with countless mysteries and dangers. The Valons were just one piece of a much larger puzzle, and while humanity had taken its first step onto the interstellar stage, there was still so much more to learn, and so many challenges yet to face. Still, she reminded herself, they had proven something important. Humanity wasn't defined by its weapons or technology. It was defined by its resilience, its creativity, and its refusal to give up, even when the odds seemed impossible. And that, Laura realized, was a strength no alien race could ever take away. The days that followed the Valon's departure were filled with a mix of relief and uncertainty. The command center buzzed with activity as soldiers, scientists, and engineers worked tirelessly to analyze every detail of the encounter. Reports were written, data was reviewed, and plans were made for the future. But even as they celebrated their success, there was an undercurrent of tension. Everyone knew the Vaylons could return at any moment, and next time, they might not be so forgiving. Daniel. Carter spent most of his time in a small tent filled with monitors and equipment. His glasses were perpetually smudged from constant use, and his shirt sleeves were rolled up as he pored over the information collected during the encounter. He wasn't just focused on the technical aspects of the Vaylon ship. He wanted to understand their culture, their motivations, and why they had come to Earth in the first place. They didn't just show up out of curiosity, he muttered to himself one evening, scribbling notes on a pad of paper. There's more to this story than we know. Laura Bennett shared his concerns. She walked among the tents, checking in with her team and ensuring everyone stayed sharp. Her green eyes scanned the horizon frequently, half expecting to see the shimmering glow of another alien ship descending from the sky. Despite her calm exterior, she felt a deep unease. The Vaylons had left peacefully, but their parting words still echoed in her mind. Our patience has limits. She knew better than anyone how dangerous it was to provoke beings far more advanced than humanity. Yet, she also couldn't deny the sense of pride swelling within her. Humanity had stood its ground, and won. General Harold Miller called a meeting to discuss what came next. The group gathered in a larger tent where maps and diagrams covered the walls. Soldiers sat on folding chairs while scientists leaned against tables, their faces serious. Laura stood near the front, her arms crossed tightly over her chest. Daniel sat nearby, pushing his glasses up the bridge of his nose as he listened intently. We've proven ourselves capable of defending our planet, General Miller began, his voice firm but measured. But let's not kid ourselves. This isn't the end. The Vaylons will report back to whoever sent them, and we need to prepare for whatever comes next. Laura nodded in agreement. We should focus on strengthening our defenses, she said. If they decide to retaliate, we'll need every advantage we can get. Daniel raised a hand slightly, drawing everyone's attention. Defense is important, yes, he said carefully. But I think we should also consider reaching out to them again. This encounter showed us that communication is possible. If we can build trust, maybe we can avoid conflict altogether. The room fell silent as people considered his words. Some nodded thoughtfully, while others exchanged skeptical glances. Laura understood both sides of the argument. On one hand, preparing for war made sense. They couldn't afford to be caught off guard again. On the other hand, Daniel was right. Diplomacy might be the key to long-term survival. Finally, General Miller spoke. Both approaches have merit, he admitted. For now, we'll work on improving our technology and training our personnel. At the same time, we'll establish a team dedicated to studying the Vaylons and finding ways to communicate with them. Daniel, you'll lead that effort. Daniel blinked in surprise but quickly composed himself. Understood, he replied. I'll do everything I can. As the meeting ended, Jack Thompson approached Rachel Dawson near the edge of the camp. The two had become close during the operation, bonding over late-night conversations and shared moments of stress. Now, they stood side by side, watching the sun dip below the horizon. You did good out there, Jack said, breaking the silence. Without your coding skills, none of this would have worked. Rachel shrugged modestly, brushing a strand of curly brown hair behind her ear. It was a team effort, she replied. Besides, you're the one who flew circles around that ship without getting spotted. That took guts. Jack grinned, though his expression turned serious after a moment. Do you think they'll come back? Rachel hesitated before answering. Probably, she said quietly. But if they do, we'll be ready. We've already shown them we're not pushovers. Her confidence reassured him, but Jack couldn't shake the feeling that their victory was fragile. The Vaylons were powerful, and humanity's ingenuity might not be enough to save them if things escalated further. Over the next few weeks, life at the command center settled into a rhythm. Soldiers trained harder than ever, practicing new tactics designed to counter alien threats. Engineers worked around the clock to develop improved versions of the EMP devices, incorporating lessons learned from the previous encounter. Meanwhile, Daniel led a small team tasked with deciphering the Vaylon's language and behavior. They studied recordings of the aliens' telepathic messages, searching for patterns or clues that might help them communicate more effectively. Laura kept a close eye on everything, making sure no detail was overlooked. She often found herself thinking about the Vaylon's final words. "Your species is unexpected." Those 4 words stuck with her, reminding her of how much was at stake. Humanity had surprised them once, but could they do it again? One evening, as the stars began to twinkle above the desert, Daniel joined Laura outside her tent. He carried a folder filled with papers and charts, but he set it aside as he looked at her. "You've been quiet lately," he said gently. "Is something bothering you?" Laura sighed, rubbing her temples. "I keep wondering if we did the right thing," she admitted. "We stood up to them, which was necessary, but now they know we're not afraid to fight back. What if that makes them angrier?" Daniel nodded slowly, understanding her concerns. "It's a risk," he acknowledged, "but it's also an opportunity. By showing them we're not weak, we've earned their respect, at least a little. Maybe that's enough to open the door to real communication." Laura smiled faintly, appreciating his optimism. "I hope you're right," she said, "because if we're wrong, we're in for a world of trouble." Their conversation was interrupted by a sudden commotion near the edge of the camp. Soldiers rushed toward the perimeter, their weapons drawn. Laura and Daniel hurried to join them, their hearts pounding. Had the Vaylons returned? As they reached the source of the disturbance, they saw Jack standing beside his aircraft, pointing skyward. A bright light streaked across the heavens, moving, faster than anything human-made. For a moment, panic gripped the group, but then the light slowed, hovering high above the desert. It wasn't the sleek metallic shape of a Vaylon ship, but something smaller, almost delicate. A voice echoed in their minds, softer and warmer than before. "We have returned," it said, "not as conquerors, but as allies." The humans exchanged stunned glances. Slowly, Laura stepped forward, her hands raised in a gesture of peace. "Welcome back," she said, her voice steady despite the knot in her stomach. "We're ready to listen." The light descended gently, revealing a single, Vaylon figure. Its translucent skin glowed faintly, and its glowing eyes met Laura's gaze without arrogance or hostility. "Your actions have proven your worth," it continued. "We underestimated you, and for that we offer apologies. Let us work together to forge a new path." For a moment, no one spoke. Then Daniel stepped forward, clutching his folder tightly. "We'd like that," he said, his voice filled with cautious hope. "Where do we start?" The Vaylon tilted its head slightly, as if considering the question. "With trust," it replied simply, "and with knowledge." Over the following days, the humans and the Vaylons began working together cautiously. The aliens shared fragments of their advanced technology, explaining principles that baffled even the brightest minds. In return, Daniel and his team offered insights into human culture, history, and creativity. Laura acted as a mediator, ensuring both sides remained respectful and patient. It wasn't easy. Misunderstandings arose frequently, and tensions occasionally flared. But each challenge brought them closer to mutual understanding. Slowly, a fragile bond formed, a foundation upon which they hoped to build a lasting alliance. As the weeks turned into months, the command center transformed. What had once been a hastily assembled base became a hub of collaboration, where humans and Vaylons worked side by side. Soldiers trained alongside alien counterparts, learning new strategies and techniques. Scientists marveled at the possibilities, unlocked by Vaylon knowledge, while the aliens expressed admiration for humanity's adaptability and resilience. One evening, as the sun set over the desert, Laura stood with Daniel near the edge of the camp. The wind carried the scent of sagebrush, and the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. "Do you think we'll ever truly understand them?" Laura asked softly. Daniel shrugged, a thoughtful look on his face. Maybe not completely, he admitted, but that's okay. Understanding isn't about having all the answers. It's about being willing to ask the questions. Laura nodded, a smile tugging at her lips. Well said, she replied. And if nothing else, we've proven one thing. Humanity isn't afraid to face the unknown. As they gazed at the stars, the distant glow of the Valan's ship visible, on the horizon a sense of hope filled the air. The road ahead would be difficult, fraught with challenges and uncertainties. But for the first time in a long time, humanity wasn't alone. Together, they had taken their first step into a universe far larger and far stranger than anyone had imagined. And perhaps, just perhaps, that was enough to change everything. The alliance between humanity and the Valans grew stronger with each passing day. The command center, once a tense and chaotic hub of uncertainty, transformed into a place of collaboration and discovery. Soldiers trained alongside alien counterparts, learning new strategies that combined human ingenuity with Valan precision. Scientists worked tirelessly to understand the advanced technology shared by the aliens, while the Valans marveled at humanity's creativity and adaptability. It was clear that both sides had much to gain from working together, but the journey was far from smooth. Laura Bennett spent her days moving between teams, ensuring that cooperation remained peaceful and productive. Her green eyes scanned every interaction, her sharp instincts always on alert for signs of tension. She knew how fragile this partnership was. One misstep could shatter the trust they had painstakingly built. Yet, despite the challenges, she couldn't deny the sense of progress in the air. For the first time, humanity wasn't just surviving, it was thriving. Daniel Carter, meanwhile, immersed himself in studying the Valan's language and culture. His tent was cluttered with notes, diagrams, and recordings of their telepathic communications. He pored over these materials late into the night, determined to unlock the secrets of their society. They're not so different from us, he mused aloud one evening, adjusting his glasses as he scribbled furiously in his notebook. They value knowledge and innovation, just like we do, but their perspective is broader. They see themselves as part of something much larger. Jack Thompson and Rachel Dawson continued to play vital roles in the alliance. Jack flew reconnaissance missions with the Valans, piloting modified aircraft designed to withstand the rigors of interstellar travel. Rachel worked closely with alien engineers, helping them integrate human systems with Valan technology. Together, the two became bridges between species, fostering understanding where confusion might have otherwise taken root. Despite the progress, tensions occasionally flared. Some soldiers struggled to accept orders from alien commanders, while certain Valans found human emotions baffling and unpredictable. Laura often found herself mediating disputes, reminding everyone of the bigger picture. We're all here for the same reason, she would say firmly, to build a better future for both our species. One afternoon, an unexpected development brought everyone together. A massive storm rolled across the desert, bringing with it fierce winds and sheets of rain. The command center's tents groaned under the pressure, and equipment was hastily secured against the elements. As the humans scrambled to protect their gear, the Valans stepped forward, their glowing eyes scanning the chaos. "Allow us to assist," one of them said, its telepathic voice calm but urgent. Without waiting for a response, they extended their long arms, generating a shimmering energy field that enveloped the camp. The wind died down immediately, and the rain evaporated before it could touch the ground. Within moments, the storm passed, leaving behind only damp sand and stunned faces. Laura approached the Valans, her expression a mix of gratitude and awe. "Thank you," she said sincerely. "That was incredible." The alien tilted its head slightly, its translucent skin flickering faintly. "We are allies now," it replied simply. "Your struggles are ours as well." The gesture strengthened the bond between the two groups. Humans who had been skeptical of the Valans began to see them not as invaders but as partners. Likewise, the aliens seemed to grow more patient with human quirks and limitations. Slowly but surely, trust replaced fear. As weeks turned into months, the collaboration produced remarkable results. Engineers developed hybrid technologies that combined human durability with Valen efficiency. These innovations ranged from advanced medical devices capable of healing wounds almost instantly to propulsion systems that allowed spacecraft to travel faster than ever before. Farmers near the base benefited too, as Valen techniques helped transform barren desert soil into fertile land teeming with crops. But perhaps the most significant breakthrough came when Daniel deciphered a key aspect of the Valen's communication system. He discovered that their telepathic messages weren't just words. They were emotions, memories, and concepts woven together into complex patterns. With Rachel's help, he created a rudimentary interface that allowed humans to speak directly into the minds of the Valens using visual cues and sound frequencies. When Daniel demonstrated the device for the first time, the reaction was profound. A young soldier named Emily Parker volunteered to try it, stepping nervously into the makeshift lab where the machine hummed softly. She pressed a button, and her thoughts, simple greetings and images of Earth's landscapes, were transmitted directly to a Valen observer. The alien's glowing eyes widened in surprise, and for the first time, a hint of what might have been a smile appeared on its face. "This changes everything," Laura said later, watching footage of the experiment. "If we can truly communicate like this, there's no limit to what we can achieve." Daniel nodded, though his expression remained thoughtful. "It's not perfect yet," he admitted, "but it's a start, and it shows that we're willing to meet them halfway." As autumn gave way to winter, the desert took on a stark beauty. Frost coated the sand in the early mornings, and the nights grew colder. Despite the harsh conditions, morale remained high. People laughed and joked around campfires, sharing stories of their lives before the Valens arrived. The aliens listened intently, fascinated by tales of human resilience and diversity. One evening, General Harold Miller gathered everyone for a special announcement. Fires crackled in metal barrels, casting warm light over the assembled crowd. Soldiers, scientists, and Valens stood side by side, their breath visible in the chilly air. "We've accomplished something extraordinary," the general began, his voice carrying across the open space. "Not long ago, we faced an unknown threat, a race far more advanced than us. Many doubted we could survive. But here we are, standing together as equals. This isn't just a victory for humanity. It's a victory for cooperation, for understanding, and for hope." Applause erupted, echoing through the stillness of the desert. Even the Valens joined in, their glowing eyes reflecting the firelight. Laura glanced at Daniel, who smiled faintly, his glasses catching the flame's glow. Jack clapped enthusiastically, while Rachel tucked a strand of curly hair behind her ear, her lips curving into a rare smile. After the celebration, Laura wandered to the edge of the camp, gazing up at the stars. The sky was clear, and countless pinpricks of light stretched endlessly above her. She felt a deep sense of wonder, not just at the vastness of the universe, but at the possibilities ahead. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the interstellar stage, and though the road would be difficult, she believed they were ready. "You look thoughtful," a voice said behind her. It was Daniel, bundled in a thick jacket against the cold. "I was thinking about how far we've come," Laura replied. "A few months ago, we were terrified of them. Now we're working together. It's hard to believe." Daniel nodded, following her gaze toward the heavens. "Do you think this will last?" he asked quietly. "Or are we just buying time?" Laura hesitated before answering. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I do know one thing. We've proven we're not afraid to face the unknown. That's something no one can take away from us." Daniel smiled, his breath forming a small cloud in the frigid air. "You're right, and maybe that's enough, for now." Together they stood in silence, watching the stars twinkle above the desert. The Valen's ship loomed in the distance, its sleek form blending seamlessly with the night sky. Somewhere beyond those stars lay countless mysteries and dangers, but also opportunities. Humanity had shown it was capable of rising to the challenge. Whatever came next, they would face it together, not just as humans, but as part of something greater. And for the first time in a long time, the future didn't seem quite so daunting.